Sincere regret was about all she could manage. "Look, I'm sorry if I seem less than enthusiastic about all this. It probably just hasn't sunk in yet." Well, that was certainly possible. Maybe she hadn't completely processed the situation yet. She mentally paused a moment. She'd inherited a rock from a distant cousin across the ocean. No, a rock's a rock's a rock. She'd inherited a rock, and not of the faceted variety. That was about as sunk as it got, she decided, not without regret. Sort of like her, unfortunately. A monetary inheritance from some mysterious relative she'd have welcomed with embarrassment and sheer gratitude. So, call her materialistic. But now that Jackson, her live-in boyfriend, had dumped her and moved out, leaving her with a mortgage and repairs she couldn't afford, she was desperate. Thanks to Jackson's vindictive, not to mention married, new girlfriend, Mina had lost her job right along with her boyfriend and potential husband. Then Jackson, in his infinite generosity, had offered to continue the mortgage payments on the house they jointly owned until the house sold. In return, Mina would pay for renovations necessary to make the house sellable. Right. With what money, exactly? The laughable balance in her checking account? Or maybe she could borrow ahead on a non-existent salary? "Miss Avery?" The attorney had a tight look on his face, as though he'd tried gaining her attention a few times. "Sorry, just thinking." Being rude was more like it. Honestly, would it kill her to show just a little interest, out of simple good manners? Sentiment in this case was beyond her, but curiosity she could do. "So, why me? No disrespect, of course, but why didn't Gladys leave her legacy to somebody she'd at least met?" "Because you, Pandemina Avery," he paused, obviously trying to emphasize the drama of Mina's situation, "are the sole surviving unmarried female descendant of the Wiltshire branch of the family who still bears some version of the family name." He paused to take a breath. And no wonder. If she hadn't already verified the attorney's credentials, she'd suspect him of trying to con her with that absurd list of criteria. "You do realize, of course, that the family name is actually Avebury over in England. It was shortened to Avery when your great-grandparents moved to America." He smiled, obviously delighted on her behalf. No, of course, about it. But Mina wasn't about to enlighten him and play Scrooge to his Santa all over again. Sure, that's great." She forced a smile. "Look, Mr. Reynolds, no offense, but don't the requirements for this inheritance seem oddly stretched to you? The sole surviving whatever of the whatever, and so on and so forth? I'm sure the family history stuff is fascinating, but why go to all this time and expense for the sake of a cornerstone?" "I couldn't say for sure in this case, but I'd suspect sentimentality. When you don't have a spouse or children to inherit your estate, you go searching for descendants just to feel like you're leaving something of yourself behind when you die. No one wants to be forgotten." He paused, letting her absorb his words. And those words were well chosen. Mina could understand being alone, given her current situation as resident pariah. She was used to that role, honestly, having played the neighborhood freak so often as a kid. Isolation was a bitch. But how much worse would it be to actually outlive the few people in this world who bothered to acknowledge the worth of your existence? When you died, would you just cease to exist? Would your absence even register beyond a minor, paperwork-based ripple in the world around you? Mina could identify to some extent. "So when should I expect this cornerstone to arrive?" "Possibly as soon as tomorrow. I do have the paperwork here, however." He riffled through his briefcase, and as if he'd had a sudden thought, glanced up. "Speaking of paperwork, you're not to worry about the legalities of transferring property from the UK to here. We've taken care of that. The cottage itself, minus the cornerstone,